Dream a little dream of me. Welcome kindreds, it's Jessica the Story Witch. I actually feel really nervous recording this. I haven't made a kind of face to camera video for a little while because I'd kind of pre-recorded some, and I've done like bullet journal videos and deck review videos and stuff where it's just my hands and not my face. So yeah, I do feel a little bit scared. But let's get on with it. This video is going to be a depth year update. I've really enjoyed kind of seeing everyone else's depth year updates and how things are evolving. And I know some people like Nina has decided that actually depth year is not appropriate for her this year. And that's Nina Shuffle Tarot. And you know, that is also a good finding, isn't it? And I do have some confessions of how I have already broken my own depth year rules, and some thoughts on why that happened and how I'm going to reassess and recommit myself going forward. March was a pretty shit month for me. Not like nothing major really happened, you know, that you could say that one particular thing was difficult, but there was just lots of like things thrown at me in March that I needed to be, it felt like I was, you know, very kind of like seven of wands, you know, I'm kind of like defending myself from all angles. That's what it felt like in March, and like just things to tie up and misunderstandings, you know, and obviously Mercury was retrograde as well, so yeah, it was a tricky month. But this is not just going to be like kind of my March see, you can tell I haven't done this for a while, I'm falling over my words. So it's gonna be like my whole Q1 depth year update. I'm gonna do it like that, like Ashley has been doing hers as well, Ashley Addleton, Ashley Michelle. You might be able to hear in the background, it is a wild, wet, windy day here in Wales. It is absolutely battering with rain, and I think it sounds like there's the brewings of some thunder as well, so I'm sorry if that is distracting in the background. But yeah, my sister, who lives only a few miles up the valley from me, she woke up this morning to snow. We didn't have any snow here, we just had rain. You know, it's amazing, just a couple of degrees difference has made that, but it is cold and it is wet and wild. So yeah, apologies for that. And I feel like I'm talking about the weather to put off talking about my depth year mess ups. So at the start of depth year, before I'd even started the year, I had said I was not going to buy any new books this year, and particularly cookbooks, because that is one of my, it's like cookbooks, craft books are my two main problem buying areas. And I say not really problem buying, because it's not like I'm kind of using money that I haven't got to buy those things. I'm not kind of like not feeding my children so that I can buy these things, but I don't need any more of these things necessarily, because as is the whole point of depth year, I can use those things that I've already got. And my first depth year confession is I've bought a book. And worse than that, it's a bloody cookbook. And I justified it to myself because I'll show you the book. I've got my two cock-ups here to show you. So I bought this book, The How Not to Die Cookbook by Dr. Greger, and I already have got his like the How Not to Die actual book, which is kind of like more, the first half of it is all about how you can kind of combat certain diseases by eating in a certain way, and then the second half of the book is about the different foods and why he kind of advocates including these foods in your diet. And I love his approach, because it is not about, like, so many diets and things are, whoa, did you see the lightning? There's going to be a clap of thunder. Lightning literally just flooded into the room. I don't know if the camera... Yeah, storm, big storm. So maybe that's appropriate as I'm revealing my my mess ups. So I like his approach, because unlike many diet books, which are all about like you can't eat this and you can't do that, and this is why we kind of funneling down the things of food that we eat, his approach is about include this in your diet, include this in your diet. So even though he is an advocate for a whole food plant-based diet, and he is vegan himself, he is not saying you have to follow that approach. But what he's saying, for optimal health, you need to be including these certain foods every day. And I've been trying to kind of switch my diet more to that over the last few years now anyway, well, more than that, I mean, yeah, a long time. But I still cock up. And I'd seen his cookbook when it came out, which was in 2017, and now the rain is coming down really hard. And thought, I don't need to really buy that because I've already got loads of cookbooks that are kind of like whole food, plant-based cookbooks. And yet I'm also on his mailing list, and he sent out this more information about it with some like people saying this has really helped, because now I'm adding these sorry, my husband just came in and is like, whoa, with his little massive hailstones. So yeah, I wanted to see how because he's like a no oil in his cooking and stuff like that, which I definitely don't do that. I do still use oil and things in my cooking. I love like roasted vegetables and things like that. So basically I talked myself into it that I probably needed it, that it would help with like our meal planning as a family and stuff like that. So yeah, I talked myself into buying it. And now that I've got it and I've cooked a few of the recipes, which are very similar to recipes I already knew and already cooked. Sorry, the light is going all weird now. Let's see if I can stop that. It is, like, it's fine. And if you didn't have any kind of vegan type cookbooks beforehand, you would probably find it really good. You know, I think it would be a really good first cookbook. But as a kind of, he uses a lot of nutritional yeast, nooch, which I don't use very much because I don't really like it. And yeah, it is not anything new. So that was a disappointment. And I was disappointed in myself really for buying it, because I said I wasn't going to, you know, I said there's more lightning. I feel like we're in the eye of it at the moment. Yeah, thunder. I don't know if that's picking up, but it's really, really loud. Yeah, I think we might be in the eye of the storm at the moment. So I said I wasn't going to, and I'm sure, like, if you guys have been watching my videos for a while, you know that I'm really, really keen on observation of self and definitely not flagellation of self. So I don't do the whole kind of beating up on myself, because I used to do that so much. For a lot of my life I was very down on myself, and not down on myself, but I held myself to very high standards. And so then if I didn't achieve them, I'd be like, well, why didn't you? You need to be doing this. So I was always pushing myself all the time. And then I realized that, you know, after a while you just get burnt out and you can't continually push yourself as hard all the time. And so I kind of went almost more the other way, where I was like, right, well then I'm not going to push myself at all. I'm going to take a step back from all the things that are kind of more out in the world driven things, and I'm going to turn my energy much more inward on self and caring for myself. And that was really necessary for me, and it was really, really helpful. And I learned in that time to be really, really kind to myself, and how to best hold myself when I needed that. And now I'm kind of, that was quite a while ago, and now I am pushing myself again, but also not in that kind of you must do this, because I think I was quite a kind of high achiever when I was younger, and that has, you know, that comes with its own set of expectations, which I kind of bought into. So now I push myself in a good way, I find. But obviously when things like this happen, that calls into question my whole kind of, am I pushing myself too hard? Should I be hard on myself for buying this? Should I be gentle with myself? And I think the answer is probably both. You know, I'm not like, oh, you're a shitty person, you said you weren't going to do this and then you did do this. And I'm also looking at the things that I haven't bought. Like, there's been lots of things that have come up that I've wanted to buy and I haven't bought. And magazines was one of the major ones. Like, literally, I've realised how home and also cookery, but mainly homeware magazines, home type makeover magazines and stuff, I am just like, I love them. I don't know why. I suppose I do know why, because I do like seeing people's aesthetics and how they kind of style their home, and I love like the before and after pictures are just like, oh yes. And so whenever I go into like a supermarket or a newsagent or anything like that, I look at the magazines, and I've still been looking at the magazines, but I haven't been buying them. A couple of times I've almost bought it just because I've forgotten that I'm not buying these things, but I haven't bought any of those things. I haven't bought any clothes. I said I wasn't going to be buying any new clothes. I haven't bought any new like craft items or things like that. You know, there's been loads of things that I haven't bought. Dramatic clap of thunder. I think it must be moving off a little bit now because the lightning hasn't come. So, but the thunder is still rumbling. So yeah, I'm proud of myself for those things that I haven't bought, but then obviously I did buy something which was very much in that category, and so I'm looking at that now with interest and being like, so why was this the book that I actually bought when it's probably one of the least, like I've been keeping in the back of my journal a list of books that I'm interested in which have come across my radar this year that I haven't bought, which would be new information and not like this book, which is very much like kind of stuff that I already knew. So that's interesting to me, and I'm trying, like I say, to walk that line. Sometimes, I think I shared this over in the Depth Year Facebook group as well. I hope this video is not super rambly, it feels like it might be. I shared about sometimes kindness to self is not tough love, because I hate that kind of tough love concept, but sometimes it's kinder to ask ourselves to reach longer term goals rather than shorter term goals. So the instant gratification is not necessarily the best thing for us. Maybe truer kindness to ourselves would be pushing ourselves that little bit further and not giving in to that instant gratification. So these are all things I'm kind of thinking about. The other thing that I bought, which I said I wasn't going to buy, is I bought a tarot deck. And this happened because I had borrowed a tarot deck off a friend, and it's a deck that I've been interested in. It's been on my radar for quite a while, and I've seen lots of people that I love here on YouTube using this deck. And I borrowed it, really loved it, and then just out of interest looked on Amazon to see, I was going to just add it to my wish list and, you know, something I was going to buy after Depth Year. And then I saw that it was like 40+% off, and I bought it. And the deck is this, and you can probably see I haven't even taken it out of the cellophane. And that was kind of deliberate because I'm not going to use it until next year. So even though I've bought it, and that was a cock up in itself, I've decided I'm just going to keep it like that until next year. And the reason I found out afterwards, which is frustrating too, that the reason that it was so heavily reduced is that they're clearly clearing stock because there is a new edition of the deck coming out with slightly modified cards. There's a couple of images in there that people really didn't like, and those images have been, not all of them, but some of them have been kind of changed, and it's going to be borderless. I think it's going to be a little bit smaller, so, you know, I probably should have waited and got that, but it was, I think it was like £21, so it was a really good buy for such a kind of weighty deck that I have. Like I said, it's been on my radar for quite a long time, so I've kept that wrapped, and I'm gonna put it back away now after I've done this video and not get it back out until next year. And I talked about this a little bit in my last Depth Year update, and I think I've already said that I'm not going to do monthly updates, I'm just going to do quarterly updates, so you won't be hearing me ramble on again about Depth Year now until the summer. But I talked about the whole point of the no buy, low buy thing. That's not the whole point of Depth Year. The reason for the low buy, no buy is to make space for what it is that Depth Year actually is. And I feel like, and I've noticed this in the Facebook group as well with some of the posts that people are sharing, is that until you've done the paring back, no buy, low buy for a little while, it doesn't always become obvious straight away what the whole point of your depth year is. And I feel like now, dun, 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 and I think the sun is just coming out. I feel like now I know what my depth year is all about, which is brilliant. So even though I have had those couple of cock-ups, I feel like I'm on track. So I am this depth year, and I think everyone pretty much I've watched, I've realised that what it is about for me is really learning more about myself and my connection to my immediate environment, so the land that I live on and live in, and to my own rootedness and safety inside myself, and my care of myself. And that is what the rest of this year, I think, you know, perhaps come 3 months' time, that will have been almost not achieved, but, you know, looked into enough, and there'll be another layer, like peeling the onion, you know, layers are gone. And so, yeah, I feel like I've taken those other things away apart from these 2 cock-ups, and that has revealed the area that I will be working on. And perhaps, like I say, I'll be working on that, and then perhaps that will peel away and it will reveal something else. And I know some people have been setting themselves, and I kind of did this as well, because like I've set myself tarot goals this year, and I feel like other things as well that have gone from my head right now. But I set myself goals this year of doing certain things, but actually I found that for my depth year, that is not so helpful. It's almost like, and I go through phases with this, I feel like, wouldn't it be wonderful if there was like a curriculum for life, like a curriculum, like if you read these books, if you visit these places, if you take part in these certain activities, if you have these kinds of relationships, if you eat these kinds of foods, if you experience this kind of ritual, it's almost like if you can tick off all these things, you will have won at life, you know, you will be doing life as it's supposed to be done. And I thought I'd left that whole yearning for a curriculum a long time ago, because, you know, I've realised that actually that it doesn't exist, and that there is no such thing. You know, obviously there's no such thing, but you know, I still was clinging to that idea of it being easy. You know, you read these books, you do these things, and then because there's just so much stuff obviously available to us that we can't do all of it, so we necessarily have to be selective. And how can we select before we know what it is we're selecting? And by choosing something, you're necessarily excluding something else because of our limited time. You know, I read years ago that book, and I think they turned it into like a kind of erotic film, The Unbearable Lightness of Being. And there was a lot of sex in the book, but it also was to do with the fact that there's no dress rehearsal for life. You know, that's the unbearable lightness that you don't get to do over. You know, obviously, you know, we do if we make mistakes, as we're going to, because there's no dress rehearsal. You can correct, but the sun's like coming out and I'm now like a ghost. Oh well. So it's like you have to kind of just keep living your mistakes out, you know, and you can't just go, yes, I'll do these certain things and that will kind of make it right. I think it, like, if we go back a long way, there would have been like a set curriculum that scholars would have followed, or magicians would have followed. Not so much with witches, because obviously it's like individual folklore and stuff like that. And we don't have that now. We have got so far away from that now, with just the plethora of things that are surrounding us that are asking for our attention, that we've got to be so mindful. And ultimately, you know, we choose our own curriculum. We are the ones who are choosing. And yes, we're choosing blind, but I think we've got to trust I've got to trust in myself that the things that I am choosing and the things I've already chosen, so those things that are already in my home, some of the books I haven't read yet, some of the courses I've bought and haven't done yet, I chose those things, and so trust myself with that. And also, like, if I start interacting with something and I find that it's not working for me, then I am also free to put that to one side and go on to something else. So yeah, that whole kind of idea of curriculum being both impossible I feel like it's more in the nature, you know, like that kind of creating ourselves, becoming ourselves, like it's at both times. Is it like kind of, are we literally creating ourselves? So are we like, when we're born, we're a blank canvas and then we add things onto that canvas? Is it that process, or is it more like an archaeological process where we already exist, our kind of true self already exists somehow, and what we're doing is actually digging up and carefully brushing the soil to uncover ourselves? Or like, is it a bit of both? Is it like you know that story, I think it was Michelangelo when he's carving David, you know, there's this massive block of marble and he's carving it, and eventually, you know, this beautiful statue emerges and all the people are kind of standing around like wowing and ahhing at it, and a little boy says to him, how did you know it was in there? And I kind of feel it's a bit like that. So it is both a creative process and a kind of archaeological process. There is both a true self there, but we're also making that true self at the same time. And, you know, I don't like binary, so I enjoy the fact that it can be both of those things simultaneously, whilst I also kind of wish that somebody would hand me a life curriculum, and if I did all those things, I would know everything I needed to know. So yeah, I think I made a couple of notes, which I've kind of completely ignored. And I've shared my confessions, so I hope that that is remotely interesting and helpful to people who are doing their own depth years. I'm definitely finding other people's depth year reflections interesting, probably even more so than the depth year videos, the kind of starting of the depth year videos. So it's interesting to see how the process is changing and evolving as we go through. So yeah, anyway, I will leave it there. Thank you so much for watching. Warmest blessings, and I will see you very soon.